just to, so we'll have this too. Maybe I can edit and post part of it. I never remember to hit the record button at the beginning, so sorry about that. We're recording now. So this is the Pathways site. We'll go through that, but scroll through the whole thing. There's a library of very useful resources that are outside Pathways. There are also live recordings, both for new members, 101 class material, and also sessions like this, where we're answering questions for Basecamp managers. All right, first up, this will really help vice presidents of education foster knowledge about path for every member. So one of the things that's very true for me is I want to see a map of the whole forest. If I'm on a big hike, I don't want to just follow, I don't want to just go from pillar to post, right? I want to know what the next marker is, sure, but I really want to see a map of the whole path. If there's a detour, maybe that's interesting, I want to know where that is. I need a map, right? I think the best map for that is at this link, and I will pull it up in a minute. We call it the Paths and Project Catalog. You can download it. It's a PDF, but it actually is like it's a point and click navigation. What it allows you to do is drill through any path at any level. And you'll see all the, when I pull that up, I'll definitely do that. And you can see that it's just kind of like a course catalog, but it's got all the resources you need for every project kind of embedded within it. So when you're trying to get somebody to pick a path, lots of choices, right? Lots of paths to be had out there. It's really nice to be able to sit down with them and talk them through their initial options, right? Maybe they want to pick a path that's relevant to their job or a job they want. Maybe they want to pick a path that fills a gap for their skills professionally. Both of those are really good conversations to have with people, and very frequently there's a path they can pick that optimizes that choice for them and can help them make it. So I really highly recommend this. It wasn't available at the beginning when my club started Pathways, and I use it heavily now. So I'm really glad it's there. All right, so I'm just going through the landing page here, just to give you kind of a sense of what we're going to do when we log into Pathways. After you log into that Basecamp manager, this is your landing page, and now you've got a couple of other choices to make, right? I want to talk about manager tutorials a little bit on the next slide, but that member progress is really important because that's where you can run reports that are specific to your club. And there are several of them there. We'll take a look at those. I think the ones that are most useful to me are ones that show what's people's progress by path. And also a report that shows me, hey, who's adopted which path and who hasn't adopted a path yet, because those are the people that I need to reach out to as Basecamp manager. And then we've talked about this too. Here's where you go when you've gotten that email that says, hey, somebody says they've completed a level. What do you do? So we can show that too. Not hard, but you need to know it's there, and you need to know some things about that. Okay, so next slide is if I'd clicked on manager tutorials there, this is the slide that comes up. And this is very helpful. I've advocated this to a number of Basecamp managers, and that is, now you have kind of video instruction of how to do things. So if you're the kind of person that, my learning style is I just get in there and I mess with it until it works for me, right? And it really kind of annoys me sometimes when I've got somebody over my shoulder, telling me what I need to do next, right? I like to learn by doing. That's valid, but not everybody is me. If you're my mom, in fact, what you want to see is somebody do the thing 10 times in a row, and you can mimic them, and then you'll catch on. That's also a valid learning style, and this actually supports that. So when you click on any of these, I want to recommend a few to you. For Basecamp managers that are new to the role, some of these tracking progress videos are short and they really help. So I'm going to show a couple of these, but just remember that they're there. If you you don't have to memorize everything I'm doing. If you need to see individual progress dashboard, there's a little video there where you can watch that task over and over, and that's very helpful. So if you're BCM tracking progress, maybe watch some of those. The Basecamp Manager overview is pretty short. It's kind of what I'm doing here. The level completion one is also really good because one of the things that it does is show you how to print certificates, which can be helpful because one of the things that I want Basecamp managers to do is to recognize level completion in their club, right? That's a good milestone for somebody. In the old program, you had to give, under the legacy program, traditional program, you know, your first milestone was like 10 speeches in a CC before your club said, yay, attaboy. And that's a long path for a lot of people, you know. A lot of people took more than a year to do that. So here, you know, when you approve a level request, somebody has done their first several speeches in level 1, they're done, you know, print a PDF for them. And, you know, I even just electronically download it and fill it out and send it to them or show it in my club Zoom meeting. That's a really good tradition to have in a club. People always ask about path completion and printed materials. I really, really encourage people to do everything online. There are people, I've got a couple of visually impaired people in my club where that's the route they have to take. But I really encourage people to track progress, work in Basecamp online to the extent possible. All right, so just know there are tutorial videos out there now. Use them where you think you need to. This slide is a little hard to view, so we're going to do it online, but this is how the report looks when you're looking at somebody's individual progress. So this is called viewing their transcript. I'll show you my transcript online. You could probably do the same thing on yours, but there are a number of things. I can probably maybe be able to zoom in there a little. Not that important, but you know, you got a status completed here for somebody who's worked through level 1 through 4. You can see exactly which projects they've completed and which ones they haven't activated and which ones are in process. And so as the Vice President of Education, you can pull up somebody's individual transcript and look for the blue checks that indicate, yep, they're complete. That's a really good indicator that they've made it all the way through the workflow. They didn't get stuck anywhere. And you can also see what they're working on. We talked about this briefly. This is the active paths report. You might want to write that one down because what the active paths report, there are a number of things that this helps you understand. One is who in your club's on the same path. I call those people a cohort, right? So Betty Duff and Jamie Morgan are both in the dynamic leadership path. They're in progress. And so they're actively working the dynamic leadership path, and it shows you when they assign those, right? That's good to know. There are also a couple other people here that have registered for the same path, and they'll be in that same cohort once they start. But that registered means they're registered for it, but they haven't started the curriculum yet. And so you got to watch for when those new members pick a path and actually log in and start doing things, okay? But there are lots of good things from a mentorship perspective that you can take on here for your club. So one of them is, you know, if you've got somebody that's at a level 4 or 5 in innovative planning, it's really good to hook that person up with a new person that just selected innovative planning, right? That's a good mentorship relationship because they've already traveled the path. And so they're much more expert in choices. You know, Vice President of Education, Vice President of Membership should collaborate to create those kinds of mentoring, individual one-to-one mentoring relationships in your club. Use that report to foster it if you can. The active paths report. Okay, and we'll load this one too in a few minutes, the individual progress report. Here's how it looks. One of the things you'll want to keep in mind with all of the Pathways reports is that they all look in summary view like they're not terribly useful because they give you information like this. How many people are in motivational strategies? In this case, one person in motivational strategies, not a lot to action there. But when you force the report to show you detail, then all of a sudden you can see who's in what path and again, some of their status information. And so people that are at progress in level 1, now you can see more detail about it. So the individual progress report I use a lot too. I wanted to bring this up. Now before we get into the, you know, one of the things we're not going to do so much in this session is show individuals how to navigate through their own Pathways workflows. But I wanted that this is a place where people, users, particularly new ones in level 1, can get stuck. And so I wanted to bring it up real quickly. You know, how do I know that my level is complete? How do I know that Pathways thinks I'm complete? One of the things you want to do is for every project in it, you want to look for that. It's now a blue circle with a white check mark in it, right? That means that project has been completed. You can launch that project again if you want to. You can, and that's what you do to go through the content again if you want to. But typically what you're going to want to see is you go all the way through the workflow. There's one place where people tend to get stuck. And then when you reload the page, you'll see that check mark. And then at the level, once all the projects, required projects and electives are completed, then you can see that this person has completed level 4, and you see that same white check mark again, right? At that point, you get a view certificate, and that means that I, as a user, could open that up and print it for myself, or my vice president of education can find that certificate, show it to the club. Make sense? All right, and here's where people get stuck, particularly new members. Anybody have a question?
Yes, sorry, when does that view certificate become visible?
Let me back up a slide for you, Roxanne. So typically it's pretty quickly. So when I go through all the way through the project and it's completed, then I will typically, when you reload your browser or reload the page, you see the check mark right away. There are some times where I have definitely seen this, where you actually have to close out the browser and something magic happens, and then when you come back, you see the check mark. But if you've had people go all the way through and they're not seeing that, they're probably stuck somewhere in the workflow. And in the next slide, I'm going to show you where they get stuck.
So
okay?
it appears before you actually submit the completion to Toastmasters International?
Yeah. So two things, we're talking about two kinds of completion here, right? And that's a little confusing too. So first kind is I've completed a project, right? So the public relations strategy is a project in level 4. And so before you see, you know, if I had completed this, but I'm missing an elective, then I'd get a completion here. And this check mark on level completion would be incomplete. You would not see that check mark, right? It's not until I get all the way through and I've actually submitted for award and that award has been approved, that's gonna look, yes, I've completed now, all right? So essentially, the only thing a Basecamp manager has to approve is level completion, right? You're gonna be able to track individual project completion, but your only approval is at each level, right? That can be confusing for people too. In the old manual-based world, sometimes in some clubs, vice presidents of education signed off every project, right? But this is more like individuals completed online, and when they get to the level, then you get VP Ed approval and award submission. That's the model. Make sense?
Yeah.
I have a question.
Okay. Yeah, please, Jeffrey.
So you got the check mark by the public relations strategies and the check mark by the level 4 completion is checked. So on my level 1, that
Yep.
isn't checked. I have where instead of a launch button, I have an activate button. Am I supposed to do that as well?
Yeah. So so if this person hadn't done this, then you would see, let's say I knew I wanted to do public relations strategies and I'd selected that as a project. I would have an activate button here. And then when I hit the activate button, it would launch the curriculum and I would start to take it. I will see videos, I'll see pre-work, and it'll describe the project. There's usually some content, right?
I think actually that's not my question. So I thought I'd completed level 1.
Yep.
So I have the check mark by the icebreaker, the evaluation and feedback, and a check mark by researching and presenting. And then there's level 1 completion. That just says activate.
Yeah. So
need to do in order to get completed level 1? Yeah.
So when you activate that, it should say yes. What will happen is you hit activate there, and that should allow you to have the notification that will go to the Basecamp manager.
Okay. So once I clicked activate, I now see launch. But anyway, maybe there's more to do before it goes to the Basecamp manager. And in this case, I am the Basecamp manager, so will it go to someone else?
Really good question. And the answer is it will, right? And you want your you want your club president or your club secretary to approve your awards, right? We don't want to be in a situation where approving our own awards.
Okay.
So basically, there are two people in the club that need to, at least, that need to be able to handle approvals of levels. And the reason for that is because somebody needs to be able to approve the vice president of education. Make sense?
Makes sense.
So not sure exactly what problem you're having there at in the individual interface, but typically once these are complete, when you launch that, you say, "Are you complete?" You get a completion for the level. When you hit that complete button, then it sends the notification to your Basecamp manager that that Jeffrey has completed this level. Do you approve?
And in my case, if I am the Basecamp manager, will it automatically send it to someone else in the club? Another
I don't think so. I think it just shows up in Basecamp Manager, period, right? So in essence, you could approve your own stuff. You shouldn't though, right? So I would teach somebody, the first thing I would do is teach a secretary how to do that, and and it's pretty simple. They get into they log into Basecamp Manager. We'll show you exactly where they go. You've probably seen it once already. Okay. I think I actually have one in my queue to approve tonight for you. So we'll see.
Okay.
All right. But people get stuck, right? I've seen, screens that look like this for people where I know they've given their icebreaker already, but the icebreaker does not look complete. There's no check mark there, right? So what do you do, right? How do you help? And this is the typical problem. It's not the only thing that can go wrong, but it's the typical scenario, right? Here's what happens. In every project module, there's kind of the same structure. You open the module, you review some content, you do something called a pre-assessment. That's just a bunch of questions that say, how good are you at X? How good are you at Y? How good are you at Z from 1 to 5? People complete that, then they learn about the project, and then they, as part of the project fulfillment, they give their speech, right? Now, and that speech gets evaluated. If you're a normal person, it feels like you're done, right? I'm done with my icebreaker. Well, you're maybe not quite, right? Because now you have to go back into the same module, and typically there's a post-project assessment. And there are several screens I'll show you in that, if I can log in myself. You just have to make sure you get all the way through the workflow. You've seen all the screens, you've done the post-project assessment, and then the same thing happens. You say, are you completed with this level? Are you completed with this project? Yes, I am. And at that point, that white check in the blue circle will show up in your transcript. And so what happens is, as you imagine, people do the pre, they do the speech, they don't come back and do the post, and now it's just kind of hanging, okay?
Can an individual move on to the next level while they wait on them to approve?
Yes, they can. And that changed, I think, in year 2, right? So you no longer have to work projects in order. You no longer have to work levels in order. That really helps experienced Toastmasters like myself. It actually helps my club to have gotten my level 4 first last year in a path. But I'm an experienced Toastmaster. Taking on some of those more advanced projects was pretty easy for me. And so I started a path at level 4, but I couldn't submit that award until I had done levels 1, 2, and 3 and been submitted for it, okay? So just keep that in mind. Anybody can work anywhere at any level on any project, but you have to submit the level 1 first, then the level 2, then the level 3, then the level 4, then the level 5. So the levels have to be submitted for awards in order. Okay, so let me hold on one second. I don't know if you can hear him, but my dog is right behind me and I need to take care of him for 30 seconds. Think of a question to ask. I'll be right back. Come here, bud.
Hey, Jeffrey.
Yes.
What happens if you click launch?
I don't know. It says what I needed to say now, which is pending completion approval.
There you go, right?
Oh,
So
good.
that
Oh, great.
now it's at least giving you the information that your VP Ed has to do something before you're complete, right?
Yes.
And that is to go into Basecamp and approve, right?
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. So what you see
To me, it now says launch again. If I launch
okay.
again, does it make me start all over?
No. It's just going to take you through the same cycle again.
Okay.
All right.
Mhm.
But the key point for all of that is when you can launch things more than once. So if you want to go back and review something from a project and work through the workflow again, even though it's complete, that's totally allowed.
Okay.
So this is the kind of email you get after. So when Jeffrey's secretary goes in and approves his level 1, this vice president, the vice president of education, will get this this email, or an email that looks like it, that says, "Hey, you got somebody that needs their award approved, or this person made it through, right? Level 1." So there's notification after that happens. Let's see. Oh, another question. People have this question a lot, and it really relates to Vice President of Education, and that is, who's responsible for the evaluation and where are the evaluation tools? So when you get to a level below where we were, this is the normal user level, right? So we haven't logged into Basecamp here. We've logged in just as a normal Pathways user in Basecamp. Speech evaluations are all stored right there. And so one of the things I often do as Basecamp manager is I look to see who's evaluating whose speech to make sure that the evaluator has the right speech evaluation tool, right? They're kind of, you've got one for every speech project in Pathways, and also a generic one that could be used for anything in any context. But it's really helpful to have either the Toastmaster or the Basecamp manager to go, "Hey, Susie's evaluating John's speech." If John's on the ball, John can go, "Hey, Susie, here's my evaluation form because this is my project." But if John is new and Susie is experienced, then Susie can go to that evaluation and find out what speech project John is doing and have that evaluation to help her in conversation with the person that's giving the speech. So all of those are there. We'll see that. But that evaluation tool, it's a little, people get confused. You should think of that evaluation as belonging to who? The evaluator or the speech giver? It belongs to the person delivering the speech, right? So think of the manual. In our old manual days, the speaker owned the manual and the evaluator did the work in the manual and handed it back to the speaker at the end of the meeting. Same model here, right? I've got an evaluation tool as an evaluator. I fill it out, I give it back to the speaker, it's theirs, right? There are places to store that in Pathways. I don't know if we'll have enough time to show that, but if you wanted to scan that and upload that PDF, you can actually store that in Pathways. But it's not required to do that. You don't have to store it in Pathways. Nobody's checking it in Pathways.
So John.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Jeffrey, please.
Sorry. So are you saying that the evaluation information is also being managed in Basecamp? The person who evaluated my icebreaker speech, for example, I know who that person is. It's in Easy, but I don't think it's ever been entered into Basecamp. How does that get there? The evaluator do that, or the person who?
Should be the speaker doing that. You'll add it. But you don't have to, right? I manage all my speech evaluations in Google Drive with the rest of my Toastmaster stuff because that's just where I manage my Toastmaster stuff. But I like to point out that if you wanted to do that in Pathways, there's a place to store your evaluations there. Some people like to have all their Pathways stuff in Pathways. That's okay too. But the key point is the evaluations are stored here. This is just a picture of a page that lists all of them. You click on one, it allows you to download a PDF, and that PDF is your evaluation rubric. And the speaker should get it at the end of the process, right? And they can store it however they want to, in Pathways or printed out in a 3-ring binder, or it's theirs. Okay, so that kind of ends the how do I probably should move out to, next slide is really just about the role of Basecamp management in clubs as a leadership model. And this is really a good and I promise I'll go out after I talk about this just for a second, because I really want to emphasize to Basecamp managers, you're a morale builder and a change leader in your club. You have to get people to adopt. And like anything else that's new, sometimes that's hard for people. So, help them follow the green curve. This is the adoption curve, and recognize that that the red curve is also normal, right? And people need help. If they feel threatened by a change, they need to meet somebody that can show them positive perception and opportunity. And that's really Basecamp manager's job. If you were on a hike through a national park and you had a guide, a lot of that guide's duty is really to make sure you get fed and make sure you get enough rest and make sure that you don't get discouraged when times get hard. So just imagine that role for yourself too. So climb this ahead of your club where you can, help people, absorb the stress of the change. All right, I'm gonna take just a second. I gotta unshare this and share a view on the internet now so we can log into Basecamp. One moment, I'll be back. Okay, you should be seeing a Pathways screen now. Everybody see that okay? Okay, very good. So as promised, I've logged in already to Toastmasters.org. We're at Pathways. I'm a Basecamp manager. I'm going to go to Basecamp. not going to go to Basecamp where I learn about and do my own projects. Rather, I'm going to log in as the Basecamp manager for my club. So that's my choice. It'll take a second here to load the new page. And here we go, right? So now you see the 3 boxes again. I'm going to go to that pending request one first, okay? And this is where we approve member requests. See if there's anything in my queue that needs to be able to be worked. And it doesn't look like there is at the moment, so yay. So what you would normally see here, if somebody had submitted an award, is their name and what level they were on. And now I have an option, a button over here to approve or reject, right? Now, typically you're gonna know enough about your club member to know, hey, if they've done those, if I've seen them do the projects in level 1, I'm just gonna hit approve. And then I'm going to go to a separate page in Club Central on Toastmasters.org and also submit their level 1 award at the same time. So just know you've got to do both of those things. You have to approve it here and go to Toastmasters.org Club Central to submit the level 1 award. 2 steps. This is really simple.
Submit the award.
I'm sorry, say again.
So, oh, never mind. I think you get there. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's the Vice President of Education that approves this award and also submits it on Club Central. It's just a 2-step. You have to do both steps to make sure that your club and the members.
I've never done that second step for stuff that I approved in Pathways. I've gone to Basecamp manager and I've said approve, but I haven't gone to submit anything.
Okay.
Does that person know it hasn't been submitted? I wasn't aware I was supposed to submit it.
Yeah, so you got to do 2, and I would, I would go back. There's probably a report we can look at here to show like which ones you've approved in a year, but you definitely need to go back and take those, put that person's name in Club Central and submit them an award in Club Central too. That will create the notification that the level award has been made. And also it gets your club credit for the Distinguished Club Program. So you definitely want to do both. You'll also see a reject button there, and don't be afraid to use it as a Basecamp manager. A lot of time, one of the things that can happen, particularly for level 1 folks, is they go through every project, they go through all the way through the workflow, and then they get the complete, they're the opposite kind. They don't get stuck on anything. They just keep going through reviewing content. They haven't given the speech, but it's going to show complete because they've gone all the way through the workflow and said that they were complete. And there's nothing to stop them then from submitting a level 1 award, even if they haven't given a speech in the club, right? That happened once. Somebody came in, did their icebreaker, they reviewed the content in their next 3, but they didn't really do a post-assessment because they never gave a speech. And so I knew that as a vice president of education. So I said, yeah, we need to reject that one. And I need to explain to you about how the program works. That is, you get credit for the speech, right? And so, you know, there's no foul there. You just reject it. And when they complete it again, they can submit again when it's appropriate. So just know sometimes you may need to use that, and tracking people's progress is important. We want to make sure we're giving credit appropriately.
Jon, can you show where the submit is in Club Central?
Sure, I can do that. I don't have the page up, but I bet I can. Hold on. So that one is Toastmaster. It's gonna have to watch me type now. There we go. I'll have to log in there. You seeing a white screen now?
Yes.
Okay. So Leadership Central is where this lives. Club Central. And then submit education awards, right? So I'm terrified of forgetting this. So when I do a level approval, I always go straight to this page and go, this should just show members of my club now. Yeah, there they are. And go, yeah, there's Daphne, and she is working in a program. It shows you which ones they're in, right? So this is another hint, Jeffrey. If you see that, you know, there's something that's out there that you know they're working in, then you may be able just to approve it in Club Central then. So check it out.
So if someone just completes level 1 of
the
pathway, there's an award to submit for that?
Yes, there is at all 5 levels, right? So after your first, I think it's 4 projects in level 1, 4 speeches in level 1. After that's done and they submit their level 1 request, yes, they get an award for that, a level award.
You said there are 4 speeches in level 1.
I think that's right. So there's the icebreaker, and then there's, you get a speech that you do and it's evaluated. And then you can give the same speech or a different speech, but you need to show that the evaluation feedback was used from the first speech. And then there's another research speech, right? So it's 4 speeches in level 1.
Okay, so I just submitted myself to, well, I just said I completed level 1, and it says it's pending approval by the VP of E. I only gave an icebreaker speech.
Well, I don't know how you got those other projects completed, because you had to have worked through the workflow by activating the project in order to get to a level completion.
You're sure there's more than 1 speech for level 1?
Yeah, positive. So let's look. Like, I'll show you the course catalog that has, you know, the level definitions for all paths. Let's go there right now. But anyway, that's how you get to Club Central. Good. Got to do both. All right, let's go to pathways.org here. Or not pathways.org. The link is tmd55.org/pathways. There I am. Oh, good. I'm glad they put this banner up. I haven't seen this yet. One thing I wanted to make sure everybody knows, and that is because of the COVID year, right? If you're a member this year, you get to select a second path for free. And I'm really trying to talk it up in clubs that just because you're on one path doesn't mean you can't select another path. Select it now. Work in 2. It gives you lots more options. And you need to do that by the end of March because it's a limited opportunity. So that's just a kind of announcement for everybody in Toastmasters. Instead of working on one path, you can work in 2 now.
To clarify, this is only for people who renewed. It's not for new members.
That's right. Yeah. So if you've been around a while and you renewed this year, you get that one. You get 2 paths to work in right away. So this is the Pathways support page. This is our district page. You'll see some contact support down below. But I like to stop here just for a second and show everybody, every path has kind of the same structure in it, okay? So level 1, level 1 is about mastering fundamentals. So there's your icebreaker. The confusion, Jeffrey, that evaluation and feedback is actually 2 speeches. You give a speech, you get it evaluated, you show in the next iteration that you've incorporated the evaluated content, the evaluator's content, you give a speech again. And then a research and presenting speech.
So evaluation and feedback is a project, is a speech project.
Yeah, it has 2 speeches in it. It's kind of one project with 2 speeches. Kind of strange.
It doesn't say that when you're in Basecamp.
I think it does.
I read through the information and took the little evaluation thing at the before and after, and I clicked through and said complete. Yeah. I didn't realize that was supposed to have been a speech that I deliver in a Toastmasters meeting. So
okay. Well, I haven't been in level 1 in a while. So I definitely want to check in and see what might have thrown you there, because when I was there, it was pretty clear, and I've helped people through that. And there's definitely multiple projects.
Click through and say it was done without ever doing a speech, and I didn't see where I was.
Yes, you can. You can do that, right? There's nothing to stop you from going. I've reviewed all the content. I'm complete.
That's
right?
what I did, because I didn't know evaluation and feedback was the title of a speech project.
Yeah. So your members will do that too sometimes. So you kind of have to help them out. I don't know. I'm not sure what's throwing people there, but sometimes that's an issue. And you definitely can mark a speech project completed without giving a speech in your club, right?
Now, you mentioned that there were 4 speeches in level 1. That says that there's 3.
So you have the icebreaker. You have 3 projects and 4 speeches, right? The evaluation and feedback project, if you read it carefully, will say you do a speech, you get it evaluated, you do the speech again, showing the same evaluator that you've incorporated material from the first evaluation. It's in there.
Jeff?
So go ahead, Roxanne.
I was just going to suggest that if Jeff wants to share his screen.
Sure.
And if you're okay with it too, I'm okay with it.
Okay. You want to do that, Jeffrey?
Sure, I could do that.
Okay, hold on. So let me just show you a path. I want to show you one thing, and then we'll let Jeffrey share his screen. That's a good suggestion. Fine with doing that. So level 1 is here. Level 2 is always about, it's got 2 required speeches and introduction to mentoring, right? So your experiences in mentoring. Level 3 is interesting because you also, to complete level 3, you have to have served a few roles in your club, right? And then there's a project required, and this is the first time you have 2 electives where there are lots of choices to choose from, maybe 8 choices in a path to choose from. You don't have to do all 8, you pick 2, right? In the projects get increasingly kind of involved at level 4 and level 5, but there's always a required project and then an elective. Some of the electives, I want to show you the course catalog for sure, because some of the electives are really demanding, right? They may take, there's a level 5 elective project that will take anybody a couple months to do, right? Yeah. So just be aware that, as people increase their skill level and expertise, the projects also get more involved. And that's not necessarily in the online content, it's in what you have to do offline, right? So, there's one, build a blog and reflect on your experience in building a blog. And then your speech is actually a pretty short speech that describes the experience, all right? And so the content online is not demanding, the speech is not demanding, but the things that you have to do to build a blog, that's not trivial. That can take a while. All right, so 11 paths. Actually, nope, the engaging humor path is in there. We started with 10, there's now 11. That engaging humor path is a pretty good one. There are more paths coming from what I'm hearing. So there will be more choices in the future. As we scroll down, you see these are where resources to help BCMs and members are stored. And the one that I wanted to, I'm going to bring up two of them here in different tabs. So the first is Pathways Level Completion Checklist. This will help people like Jeffrey think. Where is it?
Far right side.
Maybe it's loading. Where did it go? Here we are. So Jeffrey, this is can you all see this PDF now?
Yes.
Okay. This really helps. I tell people, particularly if you're not in an Easy Speak club, okay? Easy Speak tracks this pretty well for a vice president of education. But if you're not an Easy Speak club, you need some way to help people track their work. And you can do that in Pathways with reporting, but I really like to send people this at the beginning of their path to go, look, for level 1, you've got an icebreaker. First and the second speech, you do an evaluation. In the second speech here, you show that you've used the evaluation from the first speech. Then you've got a research and presenting speech project. And then there's a submit for completion for the level.
Project 2 isn't just using the feedback from the icebreaker to deliver the second.
That's right. Yeah, you actually give a first, you do an icebreaker, you do another speech, that gets evaluated. And then in that second speech of project 2, I often advise people, hey, give that same speech again, right? You gave one, the evaluator should have given you some ways to make it even better. Those may be simple things, they may be hard things, I don't know, it depends on your evaluator, it depends on your level of skill. But the idea when you give that speech again is, it should be apparent to the evaluator that you've made some changes and they were for the better, hopefully, all right?
In this case, project 2 maps to evaluation and feedback from level 1?
That's correct.
Okay, so it's then 2 speeches on 2 different occasions?
That's right.
And then the evaluation part of that is what?
So this is actually, a person is an evaluator, right? So this is a pretty good model because it focuses new members on the need to incorporate evaluation content when they're thinking about a speech. And it also has them do their first evaluation. So hopefully by the time they get to project 2, and they've seen enough speeches and seen enough evaluations that they're ready to do one for themselves. I mean, we used to have a rule in my club in Aim High that the vice president of education wouldn't assign them to do an evaluation before they'd completed 3 speaches.
So a person would have completed the second project in level 1 until they give an evaluation.
That's right. They need to give an evaluation in project 2. So let's count up a second. You would get your icebreaker evaluated. There's one evaluation. You'd give that first speech in project 2, that would get evaluated. You'd use that evaluation in second speech of project 2 to show that you understand how to use the content of an evaluation. And then you're an evaluator and for somebody else's speech, right? So now, even though you're just at project 2 and level 1, you really understand kind of the root activities in a Toastmasters club. They're planned speeches and evaluations, and both of those are pretty intimately entwined. And you should know how to do both of those by the time you hit project 3 in level 1.
Boy, they made that confusing.
It's a little confusing. And the good news is that you never have that again. There's not ever another project that has more than one speech associated with it. So,
okay.
So anyway, this is just a PDF that can help VPEs and members track their work, right? And you can keep it online and fill it there if that helps. So I'm at my 8 o'clock tone. And before I go back, I need to move a ribbon here. So
I don't need to share anymore. I got it now.
Okay, that's good. I'm happy.
I got it.
Resize this. That's not what I wanted to do. Okay, one of the things that I wanted to show in just the last few minutes is, and you'll see it here, I'll pull it up as a PDF again. Lots of resources here, but that Pathways projects, Paths and Projects catalog, right? This is really helpful. And don't go in and thinking you have to read it all, because what you're really doing is using it as kind of a syllabus summary with another person or to look at your whole path. So we'll load an example here. So it shows all paths. Let me pick strategic. I just clicked on strategic relationships. And now what we're doing is, why is that? It's not loading the whole PDF. Sorry.
If you just want it bigger, there's a plus sign.
Yeah, right. I'm gonna take the long route and just open up the PDF here for you and share that. There we go. So this looks like a really long 80-page document, but what it really is 80 pages of you can drill through things. And so when you click on, it's got live links in it. When you click on strategic relationships, now here's a view, Jeffrey, that's really useful for somebody that's in this path, because I can see all the projects that are at level 1, 2, and also the electives that are associated at every level. So now I could plan out my work for 5 levels. And furthermore, when you click on, let's click on evaluation and feedback in level 1 and see what that says. So here we go. The purpose of this project: present a speech on any topic, receive feedback, apply the feedback to a second speech, right? It's confusing because you got 2 speeches in one project. Make sense?
It does, but I think confusion came about because the first speech is called an icebreaker.
Yeah, that's right.
The second project, being evaluation and feedback, doesn't sound like a speech.
Yeah, that's right. It doesn't. And so, you know, it probably would be a better title if we called it learning to use feedback or something like that. I don't know. At any rate, that's how it's structured. But, you know, we use this in my club in mentorship relations, right? So if I'm in a cohort with other people in SR path, then I can help them make choices. And I can do that without loading Pathways at all. We can share this screen and you know, I can recommend paths to people as a Basecamp manager. So use it, because I think it's a good tool to use. So my time is up. Is there anything that you wanted to see that we haven't seen yet in Pathways?
Evaluations, but that might be more appropriate for the other Zoom.
Yeah, they can do that. I can show you real quick, but Eva can cover that too for sure. That's kind of a user experience thing. You know,
I didn't know, like normally I have a communications manual in the old communications track. I had an evaluation. I would send it to the person who's going to evaluate me. And here, yeah. I didn't know where the evaluation was.
Well, let's look and find it here, okay? Got to get back to my Pathways page. Okay, hold on. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is go back to the Pathways start page and log in as a member. So I'm not a Basecamp manager anymore.
Okay.
I'm going to go to Basecamp.
Cool.
Is that showing up okay for you guys?
Yep.
Yes.
See my browser load now, I hope. Okay. Okay, so they've restructured that page a little bit. You don't see those boxes anymore. what you see is this, the speech evaluations. So that's where they live now. But it's going to look the same when you open that. Scroll down, there are all your evaluation PDFs. So
yeah, which one of those go with Icebreaker, for example?
Yeah, so there should be one in here. These are in alphabetical order by column from left to right. So you start at A on your upper left. And so let's look for Icebreaker. It better be here. There we go, Icebreaker, right here.
Oh, man.
Okay, so they're all there. You may have to scroll and find it, but they're in alphabetical order, so that shouldn't be too hard.
So as the person who completed the project need to go in and fill out this thing, since I never sent it to the person who evaluated me.
Yeah, right. So best practice is, I like to make sure that people get credit for speeches that are evaluated. And that doesn't have to be in a club meeting. Sometimes I'll send a Toastmaster to a work meeting where somebody's doing a project, essentially a work project, and we're evaluating that speech. But I want to make sure the speech is evaluated. This is where the evaluations are live. And as a member, it's like, that's kind of the proof that I have given an evaluated speech. So the best model is, this is my opinion, right? If I'm evaluating Jeffrey's speech, the first thing I'm going to say is, hey, what project are you working on, Jeffrey? And I'm going to find the project, open up the evaluation, and have a conversation with Jeffrey about the goals of his speech project. What's he trying to get done? What problems is he having? What does he want me to look for as an evaluator? That tool is the rubric for my evaluation. I can use it to take notes on to give my evaluation. When I'm done, I fill it out and send it to Jeffrey. And at that point, it's his to keep and do as he wishes with. And later on, if a VP Ed says, hey, Jeffrey, did you even give that speech? Now he can go, sure, I did, because Nuelle evaluated my speech. Here it is. He sent it to me, right? Clubs have different levels of stringency about that, but that's the right model to use.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to let you, I don't want to, some of you may want to switch over to Ms. Tweedy, the marvelous Ms. Tweedy's hour. So I don't want to get in your way if you want to be there, but you've got my email address. When you have problems or issues, hit me up. I'll help you for sure. And it's been a pleasure talking with each of you. I'll stay as long as anybody wants to stay. But if you want to move on to Eva's session, now is the time to go.
I just wanted to make one comment. I don't know if you know, my club uses FreeToast Host as their web provider. And the agenda in FreeToast Host actually has a field for selecting the speech and the evaluation. So if the speaker is paying attention to what they're doing, they can plug it in right there in the agenda, and the person doing the evaluation can go to the agenda and pull down the evaluation from there.
That's really good design. I like that. Easy Speak is very much the same, although it doesn't give you a live link to the evaluation content, right? So, but if I signed up for Present a Proposal next week in Easy Speak, that title, whatever my speech title is going to be under Project Present a Proposal, and that's how my evaluator knows that's what he's going to need to evaluate. And he can go here and download that particular rubric for evaluation.
Right. Okay.
Cool.
Thank you very much, John.
Yes, happy to do it. Y'all hit me up when you need help, okay? Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you.
All right, take care.